the vast majority of women are probably not a good fit for the vast majority of guys up there. And that's fine. And that's why I advocate, for the abundance. And, like most of your problems as a guy when it comes to dealing with women can be resolved in a selection phase when you're dating, when you've got a lot of abundance and optionality and you reject the wrong kind of women. That's why I often talk about the 21 red flags. And seeking the 16 green flags that, surround the bright triad traits. You want to look for women that are a good fit, that are aligned with your purpose and your goals.
Rich, what's up, man? So good to see you. It's been, years since we had our last conversation?
It has. How you doing, Ryan?
I'm good, man. I'm good. You came out with a new book, and I follow you from the sidelines, and I don't engage a whole lot. I think you spend most of your time over on X. Is that right?
Yeah, I like it a little bit more than the other platforms. A little more free speech, and you can say whatever is on your mind.
You don't think you can say that on Instagram or Facebook or wherever else?
No, I've found certain posts that I've done in the past have gotten me warned. Like, if you post this, then it might offend some people, so you might want to change the language. And I'm like, okay, Mark Zuckerberg, whatever you say.
You're like, no, I said it that way because that's how I wanted to say it. I'm pretty sure that's exactly what I wanted to say.
Yeah. I've already lost one account on Instagram, so I figured it's not worth it doing it again.
Have you ever lost anything on X or no?
No. I've had some warnings before when it was owned by the other guy before Elon, but
what's his name?
No
Jack Dorsey.
Dorsey, that's it.
Yeah, it's wild, man. It's. I guess we all find our platforms that we resonate most with. I don't spend a whole lot on Twitter just because it just seems like a shit show, man. But I guess all of them do. I could say Jesus loves you, and they're like, well, Jesus is a Jew, or like what?
They'll call you a Zionist or something. Sure.
Exactly. Yeah, it's wild. How do you feel like you engage in the world of trying to draw attention? If we're stripping everything else away, that's what we're trying to do, right? Get attention to a thing that we think is going to help the people we serve, but also not get lost in it.
It's tough because people love a train wreck. That's why they rubberneck on the highways, right? Like even if it's off to the side and the accident's totally cleared, it's like both lanes will slow down to stop and look. So people love a train wreck, which is unfortunate because that, it's the whole if it bleeds, it leads sort of thing really is true. So you kind of have to infuse some lessons or some usefulness behind it or around it or somewhere in that sandwich. But that's just what happens to work. It is what it is.
I see a lot of what you post, and I can't help but think sometimes, in all honesty, I'm like, wait a second, like, is this the real Rich, or is this the, hey, let me rile people up a little bit? What's your thought?
It's a bit of both. Yeah, it's a bit of both.
Fair enough.
I used to have in my Twitter bio, follow me for wisdom and a bit of comedy. And I think the comedy part really didn't sit with some people. They didn't get the comedy part. So I was like, you know what, let's just take it out completely and let them figure it out on their own.
I like that. It's like, if you can't understand the nuance, I just had a good conversation with a friend of mine before I got on the phone with you, and I was a dick on Friday, frankly. I was a total dick to him. I sent him a text because he does some work for me, and I sent him a text, and I was an asshole about it in hindsight. And he sent me a message on Saturday. He's like, dude, and he was an asshole back to me, but I probably deserved it. And then we got on the phone today, and he's like, look, I don't bruise easy. I'm like, God, finally. Like, somebody I can debate with, I can be a jerk to, he can be a jerk to me, and neither one of us are going to be offended. But that doesn't seem like it's common these days.
Yeah, it's pretty uncommon. I mean, there's that saying about real, true friendships where, your good friends will let you talk shit to their face, and they'll defend you to your back. So I think it's like a game that men like to sort of test with one another. You see it with women now a lot too. It's like, well, chicks will be like, well, don't you like a challenge? Like, don't you like a gal that's gonna talk back or speak to you the same way that your boys do, sort of thing? And it's like, nope, I don't. And I'll tell you why. You tell me what you think. So respond to this, I guess. I don't need you to create shit to test me, and
I don't want you to push on me the same way that you, Rich, as my friend, might push on me from a woman. Now, you can lean on me. You can make sure I'm safe or that I'm going to meet your needs. I think that's part of a relationship.
Yeah.
Reciprocity, right? You meet my needs, I meet yours. But I'm not interested in you being a dude testing me the same way one of my brothers would.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, you know what it is, man? There's a lack of masculinity in the world, and with every vacuum, that void fills with something. And I think it forces women to be a lot tougher than what they are kind of accustomed to being.
Fair.
So that's why you have these, this new avatar of the, the boss girl. My most recent book in the Top Shelf Man, I call her Becky. There's a chapter on it that sort of breaks it down. So there's a lot more of those gals out there today.
Yeah, I actually had a really good conversation because I made a post. You referenced it before we hit record. Yeah. And essentially I said, I'm looking for a woman who wants to, I don't know, bake, I can't remember what I said, but bake sourdough bread, sing in the shower, decorate my home, and homeschool my children, not a woman who wants to train jiu-jitsu, shoot guns, fight enemies, and like whatever I said. Yeah. I posted it as a story because I knew if I made it a post, it would just be like a shitstorm. I stand by it. I believe it. But I'm like, let me see how this goes over. It went over about exactly how I thought it would. Yeah. And I had this woman, her name is Nicole. And Nicole and I have known each other for 30 years. We used to run around in the same circles right out of high school. And she messaged me and she said exactly what you said. She said, and she's awesome because she'll push on me. And she said, Ryan, like, I appreciate what you're saying, but also women feel obligated to act like men because men aren't stepping up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's true. That vacuum's got to fill with something. And, in the absence of masculinity, the feminine will take over, but turn it masculine.
Why do you think men are looking subconsciously or maybe even consciously for mommy?
I don't think they're genuinely looking for mommy. I think what it is that a lot of guys have been raised to be soft. They've been told to become less so she can become more, to be a nice guy, to tell her she's pretty and she smells nice all the time and put her up on a pedestal. And that doesn't work. 43% of households are single mother households. So there's the absence of masculinity there. And then in the cases where there is a father around or a father that's able to raise the kids, he's usually not a strong leader. He's more of a softer, weaker guy that's more agreeable. So that's why you get this new generation of sort of plugged in beta males that sort of go along to get along, and happy wife, happy life, and, male feminists and all that sort of stuff. It's just, it's just the trends that we're heading on.
Do you think Becky, that's the term you use, do you think Becky will ever relinquish her masculinity once she's found it?
Not for the foreseeable future. We need a significant change in culture, society, and the structure of all that. I don't know what that's going to take. Maybe a small meteor that wipes out 25% of the population, some kind of like extinction level event that really changes a pole shift. That the Earth tilts a certain degree, something that forces.
But let's just say, I know you're joking, kind of, but let's just say that happens.
Tongue in cheek, yeah, but there's some truth to every joke too, right?
Yeah, for sure. But like, what would that change? I mean, it would wipe out just as many women as it would men. What would that change?
Yeah, and I think it would reset things to the standard norm. Like the weak would sort of not really function; they wouldn't be able to perform, and the strong would stand up. And I think that women would want to enter the frame of the strength in the men that are leading and standing up and able to, perform and show the competence skills that they have always valued. I don't see anything changing like anytime soon. We still see these consistent patterns every year, every 10 years, every election cycle, where it's like they keep telling most guys to be softer, weaker, more agreeable, to nod their head, bend the knee, like I said earlier, become less so she can become more. Let her get promoted. It's her turn. You keep hearing these narratives just about everywhere. And that's why you get a lot of weak guys, and that's why the strong masculine guys do so well out there.
Yeah, it's not even a contest. Like
Yeah, your
you literally
competition
have to
is
slide over the bar. Like you don't have to
yeah,
step over it. You just like moonwalk over the bar.
basically, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I've kind of toyed around in my head with this idea of natural selection. I kind of like natural selection, but we've quote unquote evolved past natural selection, where the weakest, most cowardly, most pathetic people among us stay alive. I know that's going to be controversial, but I kind of think it's true.
Isn't that what they want? They want everybody to be agreeable, stand on your dots, wear your face diapers. Wasn't that what the whole scandemic was about? It was a test to see what they could get everybody to do.
Yeah, well, did you see that Fauci just came out, or Rand Paul? I think I don't even know how he got his diary,
Yeah, his diary
which
notes.
is awesome. How did he get his
Yeah,
diary? That's my first question.
yeah. I don't know, but that was interesting. I mean, we
That's my
already knew
first
before
question.
that he was a piece of garbage.
Well, you knew. I knew. There's
Yeah,
millions of Americans who are like, "Well, I didn't know." Now you knew.
he seemed like such a genuine nice guy.
Yeah. But no, I think that's what it's about. We let these weenies and these assholes take charge, and we just kind of, toe the line and do what we're told and get our little pats on the head and our gold stars like
Yep.
Mrs. Johnson, our first grade teacher, gave us when we were 6 years old.
Yeah, that's what it boils down to. We see the world through the same lens, my friend.
Yeah. Okay, so what does a man do about it? Like, let's not talk about it societally. Let's just talk about it, and we can talk about it from a couple different perspectives. So we've got Are you married, Rich? You're married, aren't you?
Divorced, yeah.
Divorced. Okay. How long you been divorced?
When was it? 2012 I finalized. It was a while
Okay.
ago.
Okay. Are you in a committed relationship, if you don't mind me asking? Like a
Yeah, I've got a
monogamous
girlfriend.
relationship?
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been divorced for 3.5 years. So let's look at it from the lens of, what does a guy who maybe is not in a relationship, maybe is divorced, do? And then let's take a look at a guy, because there are a lot of men who listen to this who are married, 4, 5, 10, 20, 30 years, whatever. And I think it's a little bit different for each of those categories. Or maybe it's the same. What do you think?
Now, when you say what does he do, what does he do about what he can control, or what does he do about the world around him? What are we looking at here?
Let me say this. What does he do? I'm just trying to think about what's the most... Okay, here's what I'd say. What does he do to get his balls back? That's what I'd say.
That's
For him.
That's
For him.
that's real tough. Like when I hear guys like, what do I do to get the frame back? What do I do to get my balls back? My balls are my wife's purse. They don't usually acknowledge that, but that's what their friends sort of observe, and they might.
I mean, we joked about it when we were kids. We called it pussy whipped, right?
Yeah.
Like we all joked about it when we were
Yeah.
kids. That's what it is.
I think it's really difficult to change a woman's opinion of you when she's decided that you fit in a certain category, right? Like if you've been married for 10 years and you're pussy whipped and your balls are really in her purse and she doesn't, respect you, she shows contempt for you. It's been said that contempt is the clock that ticks down to the end of the relationship. And you see this all the time publicly at, like Thanksgiving, or, you go to the grocery store even, where she's chirping her husband and almost insulting him publicly in front of other people, like, "Oh, Ryan, you're so incompetent. Why'd you get those diapers? It's not those ones. I told you it's these ones. You're such a moron. Why don't you listen?" Like stuff like that. And I think that once you get to the point where she really doesn't see you as that strong masculine guy, even if you change your behavior, she's still settled on the notion that you're just that weak pussy whip guy. So I think it's really, really tough for guys to take the frame back, to take their nuts back and own the role of the guy in that relationship. I mean, in every relationship, there's a woman and a man, and one enters the other's frame. And nowadays, it's mostly men through a process of betatization, through 1,000 concessions. And that's like a small thing. It's like death by 1,000 paper cuts. It's like, Ryan, don't brush your teeth over there. You're going to get toothpaste on the carpet. You kind of mumble off. You're like, yeah, I'm not an idiot. I know it's not going to go on the floor, but I'm going to go over there just to make her happy. Or, Ryan, don't put your socks over there. The dark socks go in the dark hamper and the white socks go in the white hamper. And it's like one thing after another after another. And it's like, I don't think women are trying to pussify men. I don't think they're trying to make him soft and agreeable, but it's just their way of competency tests, also known as shit testing the guy to see what he's made of. and he sort of goes along to get along to make her happy, because men hear it throughout their entire life: happy wife, happy life. Got to check with the boss, my better half. You see at family events, they're often saying things to the women like, he's really lucky to have you. You'd never see anybody tell women at family events or gatherings, Becky, you're really lucky to have Ryan. You don't usually hear that publicly. It's always, you're the lucky one to have her, sort of thing. And I think all these narratives that sort of like just build up and pile up, it's just guys get to a point where they're just, they're a former version of themselves. I'll share a really interesting story with you. So I was at the gym once, and I got out of the shower and I'm shaving my head, and there was this guy that came over to me, and you're about the same age as me, I think. And he was one of these guys that had like a barbed wire tattoo around his bicep. I don't know if that was popular when you were younger. Those guys, they're always like,
I've got a couple buddies who I tease about it for sure.
Yeah. And he still had that barbed wire tattoo on his arm, but he was kind of shaped like a pear. He was a little dorky. He was losing his hair. He was kind of holding on to scraps. And he came over to me and he goes, that looks really good. When'd you start doing that? I just said, whatever number of years ago. It's pretty easy. I use one of these razors. And then I said to him, I go, you should do it. Just shave your head. You look a lot better, right? Like clean up your look. Yeah. And he kind of dropped his head and he's like, yeah, I'd like to, but my wife won't let me, sort of thing. And it's like, this guy was probably this awesome Chad that drove a nice car, that had a cool life when he was like 22, 23 with the barbed wire tattoo, and, women pursued him, and he got into a relationship, and she said to him at some point, let's get married. And he said, all right, let's do it. I'll do the right thing. And, through the course of the entire marriage, he just got to the point where he was kind of like this fat pear-shaped dork that was afraid to shave his head because his wife wouldn't let him, sort of thing. And that's what that process of the betatization of the 1,000 concessions sort of gets men to, where they turn him into this weak, unattractive, soft guy that she doesn't want to be with. She doesn't really want to be intimate with him. And he might get, something every couple of months from her. And it's just an unfortunate consequence of men yielding to women with everything. Chris Rock made a joke about it in one of his stand-ups. He's like, he said to the audience, he goes, ladies, the number one reason why you hate your men is because he wasn't your first choice. And the entire audience erupts in laughter. And that's what these guys, allow to happen to them, because they love the woman. And I believe that because, when a man loves a woman, he truly wants to make her happy. And he does all of these things. He makes all these concessions for her. And it's unwise. Like, men need to learn how to say no more. They need to put their priorities and their hobbies first. A lot of men walk away from friendships because she doesn't want him around certain people for whatever reasons, because she doesn't like the hobby, or she doesn't like the circle of friends, whatever it happens to be. But it's like, that's the guy that she wanted. That's the guy that, the barbed wire tattoo guy was the guy that she wanted to be with, but she turned him into something else, and he allowed it to happen. I don't blame the women. I blame the men for letting it happen.
I think that's the right frame. It's like, as a man, so I'm 45. I don't know how old you are, Rich, but I'm 45, so we're probably very close. And what's ironic about this is all the things that you're saying that, and women will even say, I want a nice guy. I want a guy who, I feel safe with. No, you don't. Mm-hmm. I know you don't. Because the behavior that you're saying that is associated with nice and safe is not the behavior you're attracted to. And I'm not saying that you need to be a dick or anything like that. I'm not. But I'm in the dating world, and, I could tell a woman, hey, like, hey, I'm looking forward to taking you out on Tuesday night. And I've got some good plans, and it's a surprise. Here's what I want you to wear. Mm-hmm. And she's like, yes, sir. like there's no question about it. Like, and I'll even say, like, here's what I'm wearing. Here's what I want you to wear. And I'm going to pick you up at 7. I don't typically ask, like, oh, can I meet you there? Can I not? Mm-hmm. Like, no, I'm going to pick you up at 7. Here's what I'm wearing. Here's what I'd like you to wear. We're going to have a good night, and it's going to be a surprise. And she's all about it. But too many guys don't do that. They're like, well, what do you want to do? What do you think? It's like, God, she's not your mommy. She doesn't even want to be. You're trying to be nice because that's what she says she wants, but her behavior says she wants a daddy, not a mommy.
Women crave that. They crave a guy that actually makes plans. They can't stand men that can't be decisive and make plans for a date. They hate it.
Yeah. How does that work in the confines
dudes have been told,
of marriage?
though, Ryan, like
no, I know, but even women say it.
Women are equal, right? Like, they've been told for decades now, men and women are equal. Like, you should try to make complementary, decisions, between each other when it comes to things. So so guys approach a lot of dating with like, okay, well, let's go out. They probably think that they're going to go Dutch and split the bill or something like that. And they should sort of collaborate and figure out what they would like to do. You know, do you want to go out for dinner? Do you want to go to the putt-putt golf center afterwards or before? Like, you know, let's have a conversation about what our date should look like. But what women really want is a guy to say, picking you up at 7, taking you out for dinner, wear that black dress, and picture number 3.
Easy. So easy. Yeah. But also, I like this idea you're talking about it with equality. I mean, we're not equal, right? Equal means equal. 4 is the same as 4. And I would say women are equal in worth to men, but not equal in application. We're different. And if more people understood that, and look, the other side of it too is, like, I'm not talking about being Andrew Tate here. Like, if the woman you're interested in says, I'm allergic to shellfish, probably don't take her out to sushi, but you can definitely take her to the steakhouse. Yeah. So, you know, take her into consideration, whether you're married or dating, you know her better than anybody else. Take her into consideration and then make a fucking choice already.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's not complex, man. You know, it worked for our grandfathers and great-grandfathers.
What do you think, but why won't men do that? Because that is what I see. I don't see a whole lot of men making those choices. Like you said, it's a bunch of acquiescing, and then women get the ick from it, rightfully so. I love that you said I don't blame it on women, I blame it on men. We're leaders, so if we're not going to lead, then we're abdicating that role. Why don't men just show a little initiative, a little effort? That's all it takes.
Everything that's in culture and society today, Ryan, for decades now, has pussified the Western male to this soft, weak puddle of goo. And that's just what most women are dealing with. So even if he is attractive, I mean, I've talked to lots of women over the years where, you know, they've said, you know, this guy was good looking, he was tall, he had a good job, but as soon as I went out with him, nothing. I was put off because he was just such a big softie. And I think that men need to tune in more to their inner asshole. I think they got to listen to that tough guy, that like machismo sort of dude that's in there somewhere that they know that women are inherently attracted to, and turn off all the biological programming and all the cultural programming that they've heard for decades now, dude. Like, growing up, watching sitcoms, Cosby Show, you know, father was the butt of all jokes. Home Improvement, father was the butt of all jokes. You go down every single sitcom that we watched growing up, Dad was the butt of all jokes. He was an absolute bumbling moron. Mom was the hero. They always laughed at his expense. Even in the commercials today. I was talking about this, you know, the other day. There's a radio ad that runs on a station that I listen to often. And I can't remember what the exact lyrics are, but I'll try to play it out. So something like, you know, guy goes, hey, AI, put toothpaste on the grocery list. And then there's the female voice on the AI that comes on, and she goes, got it, toothpaste on the grocery list and mouthwash. And he goes, I didn't say mouthwash. And then the AI female voice goes, yeah, you need mouthwash. And you're also going to listen to this station at 17, and you're going to shut up and you're going to enjoy it. And then he goes, okay, fine, no problem. You know, like, he agrees with the AI, you know, female voice. And that comedy, that, you know, that little skit there is put together by marketing teams, which always portray men as the butt of all jokes. That's what sells. That's what women want to hear. And that's part of the programming that, you know, makes these men compliant, weak, soft, and agreeable.
Yeah, I like the idea of tuning into your inner asshole, and I often joke about it. Like, if you're a nice guy, you need to actually, and this is what I tell my guys, tell me what you think of this. Like, you need to tiptoe into asshole territory, because you don't have a realistic perspective of what is nice and what is being a dick. And in order for you to figure out what's appropriate, you need to be willing to be a dick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's 100% true, man.
That's crazy. There's a sitcom I was trying to pull up with Roseanne Barr. What was that sitcom? I'm just pulling up my notes right here. What's the sitcom? It's like her and her husband. I don't know. I'll look it up here in a second. But that's one of those sitcoms where actually it bucks against the system, and you can't help but love the guy because he actually cares about his wife, but he also protects the people and has discipline. And it's such a rarity that it like actually stands out. What is that? I'll look for it later. All right. So when you say that a guy needs to tune into his inner asshole, that sounds really good. And a lot of guys are like, yeah, I need to do that. What does that look like tactically?
Give me some context, like in what example? Because I mean, you got to fight every area of your life, man. Work, women, friendships, business dealing.
Let's say a guy's married for 10 years. All right. He's got 2.5 kids, a white picket fence. He's, you know, his wife's kind of likes him. Maybe they were high school sweethearts and she's loyal and sweet but not real satisfied, and neither is he.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's got to start early on, and it's got to be maintained. Like it's one of the concepts that I talk about in my most recent book, Top Shelf Man, and that book is more or less a guide for guys how to manage long-term relationships and get more out of what they want in those long-term relationships. And one of the simple concepts really is just saying no more often, right? Like women will cook up all sorts of ideas on things to spend money on, to events to go to, for projects for you to get involved in. And like I said earlier, I think when a man loves a woman, he really tries to please her and he tries to go along to get along, and happy wife, happy life sort of thing. And he tends to stamp everything just yes, 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 yes. And, you know, you can really see what a woman's made of when you tell her no, right? You know, does she throw a hissy fit? Does she get angry at you? Does she call you, I don't know, controlling or insecure or whatever it happens to be? Like, you know, like one of the conversations I have a lot of times with guys is the guy will say, you know, my wife wants to go away to a bachelorette party in Las Vegas for the weekend. I'm not really sure how I feel about it because all of her friends are, you know, hoes or something like that. Like he'll come up with this notion that they're not the best characters to sort of be around. And I think a guy that's masculine and has frame in the relationship, and she looks to him as a leader, she wouldn't even ask.
She wouldn't ask for it.
She wouldn't even say to him, look, you know, I want to go to Vegas on this date with my girlfriends. Are you okay with it? She just won't go. She'll just tell her girlfriends, you know, you go ahead. I don't think that's a good idea for me as a married woman to go and do something like that, right? Some women will ask. Some women will also tell. And I think the vast majority of women sort of err on the side of that's what I want to do. This is what women do. It's a girls' weekend. What could possibly go wrong in Vegas? You know, you're just insecure. You're just controlling, sort of thing. And when guys tend to put their foot down in an environment like that, you know, that's showing leadership. And that's always best done early on. Like that's done very early on when you're kind of dating phase. She says something to you like, hey, Ryan, what are we? Where are we going? You know, what is this? I want to claim you. I don't want to share you. That's when you can tell her, hey, look, you know, I dig your vibe too, but I don't take women seriously, and I don't invite them into my life on a committed basis if they're the kind of gals that go away for girls' weekends, right? Like that's just not my thing. I'm not like, I trust the locks in my Porsche. I'm not going to park it in a lousy neighborhood overnight because I know what could possibly happen. It's the same sort of thing. If you want me to care about you and you want me to protect you, then I'm not going to allow these sorts of things to happen. So that's always best handled very early on in the selection and dating phase. But if you've been married for 5 or 10 years and you want to put your foot down and tell your wife who's gone away for girls' weekends many a times that she can't do it anymore, she'll probably laugh in your face and do it anyway.
And then what? What do you do?
Well, that's just what she thinks of you. I mean, that's what she thinks of your leadership. That's what she thinks of your boundaries.
No, I mean, like, let's say I'm married for 10 years.
You don't have a lot. You don't have many cards to pull at that point. Like, you're in a very bad position if she expresses contempt for your boundaries. You know, like I said earlier, contempt is a clock that ticks down to the end of all relationships. That's very difficult to fix. I don't think it's fixable in most cases.
Yeah, but so what do you do? Like, let's say I'm married for 10 years.
Yeah.
And my wife comes to me and she's like, hey, I'm going to go with the girls to Vegas. And I'm like, I'm not really comfortable with you going to Vegas. I prefer you to stay home and I prefer to do this. And let's you and I have a weekend. I'll come to Vegas. Yeah. Like, you want to go to Vegas? Let's do it together.
Yeah, I would say,
but I'm not really comfortable. What do you do?
Yeah, I would say the go plan is the same as a stay plan. You know, you set the boundary, you put your foot down, you say you're not having it. You don't get mad at her, you don't yell at her, you don't, do anything different. You just tell her, like, this is the way it's going to be. And if you choose to do that, you're going to come back to a house with the locks changed and your stuff on the front porch. And you have to be serious about it and follow through on it. Yeah,
it's a law of deterrence, right? Like, you can't be a badass if you're just going to, flap your gums, because people will test you. Your woman will test you. And then when you fold, she's like, oh, yeah, Like all I have to do is wait a day and he'll fold.
Yeah. It's pretty much what they think. Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah, I think you're right. Like, again, as a man who's dating, if a woman said to me, "Hey, can you take me to the club?" No, I'll take you to a nice dinner where it's you and me, and we have a little privacy, and I can get to know you. You can get to know me. It's like, well, I really wanted to go to the club. I'm like, cool, go to the club with someone else. You're not going with me though. Like, I'm not taking you to the club. I'm not going to parade you in front of other dudes. I'm not going to put myself in a jeopardizing situation where I have to compete with other men, where maybe I even have to be physical or violent with other men to protect you, who I don't even know. I'm good. Hard pass on that.
Yeah, it's very simple. You know, the earlier that you set the boundaries and the firmer that you are on what you're willing to tolerate, because you get out of life what you tolerate, the more likely it is that you're going to figure out if she's the right fit for you. But again, you know, most guys, because they have a lack of optionality, they have a lack of abundance, they'll do anything to go along to get along, and they'll legitimately drive. I mean, that's why you have this phenomenon today, which is just wild to me, where you see these guys who just fall for cuckoldry and hot wifing, and you know, women want to introduce some guy named Tyrone to the bedroom while he sits in the corner and watches it all unfold in front of him, and they go along with it, right? It's like. I still can't believe to this day that these men actually exist, but there's an abundance of them out there, and they just do it because they think that she'll be happy with it, and that she'll like him more, or that she'll give him more of what he wants.
I actually saw a study, it's like a week or two ago, that said the category of pornography that continues to increase is just what you said, cuckoldry.
Yeah.
Like, guys are actively searching out being a cuck to Tyrone or whoever else it might be. That's crazy.
You know, like in the past, polygyny was the thing where, you know, women would be okay with sharing a man. Now it seems like we've flipped it upside down, and it's like, you know, guys are okay with sharing a woman because it's all they can get. It's the best they can get for some of these guys. Not all, but some of these guys. And I think, you know, in some instances, some of these guys think that it'll save their marriage. I've never seen a guy yielding to cuckoldry save his marriage.
Yeah, well, quite the opposite, actually. Like, the amount of, and I'm in southern Utah, the amount of, it's actually pretty wild to me. It's a very swinging culture here. It's crazy to me, and people will say,
Mormons that are doing it, or is it people outside
every Mormon? It's everybody.
Really?
A lot of times it's ex-Mormons, right? So they grew up in the church and then they left at 25 because of whatever, which I would say would be a good decision. But they leave and then they go. It's the preacher's daughter scenario, right? And they go crazy, and then you have these people. It's very prolific here. It's like you have these people who are just openly swinging as if the relationship is going to be better. I'm like, I've never heard of a healthy relationship when you start introducing other people into the bedroom. I've never in my life heard of that. I've been on this planet for almost 50 years now.
No, it's over at that point for the most part.
Yeah. To go back to your book, when you talk about being a top shelf man, sometimes I think, and you probably get this, that people think, well, it's machismo, it's toxic masculinity, it's arrogant. I'm sure you've heard worse. What do you say to somebody like that?
Okay, that's your opinion. You're wrong.
Why are they wrong?
I've kind of gotten to the point, because I've been doing this for over 12 years now. It's like, I've learned that people don't usually want to hear your opinion. They want to hear their opinions come out of your mouth. Good point. And if somebody's going to argue with me about a point that I've made, or something that I'm confident in, or a value that I've established is actually true, I mean, I'll respond to it and I'll tell them, like, I might say something like, do you want to hear the honest truth? Like, do you really want to hear my opinion? And yeah, tell me, okay, then I'll tell you the answer. You're not going to like it, and they usually don't, but it gives them something to chew on, right? Like, I know what women respond to. I know what women don't respond to. I was the guy that was on all sides of the equation on the sexual marketplace, the alpha seed, the beta need. Like, I've been on both sides, so I know what women do like and what they don't like. And oftentimes, women will say things to us and they'll blanket it in something like toxic masculinity or whatever it is that it happens to be. We'll just use that as an example. But there's really no such thing as toxic masculinity. There's just masculinity, right? They only call it toxic when it doesn't serve a narrative that they like. And when it serves a narrative that they like, oh my God, there was a hurricane that came through and everything flooded and all of these men came in and saved people.
It's manliness at that point.
Then that's not toxic masculinity. That's a real man, sort of thing. And it's like, well, that comes with the guy that also says no to you, right?
Yes, I agree. How do you help a woman give up some of that masculine frame when she's been conditioned at this point from the time she was a little girl, including her mom, running the house?
Yeah, you just have to
putting the pants to the house, putting on the pants. Like, how do you help her feel comfortable where she can start letting go and actually being feminine?
Yeah, it can take some work. I mean, it can take months or years of work. I mean, if you're committed to the relationship with a woman and you think that she's a good fit and she kind of ticks off most of your boxes and she's got a lot of green flags and no red flags and you want to spend the time on it. And it's just, sound bites like, don't talk to me that way, sort of thing. Or, like something along those lines. But violence, raising your voice, making statements that, throwing words out that you can't take back. It's like, one of those things, sometimes it's one of the best things that ever happen to women is when you make a statement or you use the C word. You get so bent out of shape and your feathers ruffled so badly that you drop the C word or you call her a bitch or something like that. And it's like, once you've done that, you've lost all the frame in the relationship. I don't argue with women. It's like if they start doing something or say something that I'm not in alignment with, I just don't partake. I just turn around and I walk the other way, right? And they learn real quick what I'm about. And if they're going to stick around and they want to be with me, then they're going to put up with my boundaries. And if they're not, then they're going to go the other way, and that's okay. I'll just replace them with somebody else because I have abundance.
Yeah, I like the abundance versus scarcity mentality. And I also appreciate your energy. Like I can actually see it. We're not even arguing. And I can see that your energy is very calm. It's cool. It's collected. It's like, I could probably say things that I could try to get you riled up. I don't have any reason to, but I can't imagine that you would. And that's the energy I think more men can come with. Like, it doesn't matter what you say to me. You can't penetrate my well-being, my psyche, how I feel about myself. That's a very powerful, it's very attractive too, to a woman, to anybody actually, women and men.
Attractive. Yeah. They like all of this really just like boils down, going back to the point of the competency test or the shit test as it's often known is like women test men to see what they're made of. And they'll try to get away with things with you to see what you're made of, right? Because they're trying to figure out like who is this guy? And what you'll find is once you kind of go through a few of these, for a little while, they happen less and less. They don't happen as much. And if they do happen and you do put your foot down in the same consistency that you have in the past, she'll usually come back and re-enter your frame pretty quickly. I often tell guys, you want a woman that can self-reflect and take a little bit of accountability. I don't think you should try to force accountability down women's throat. It's very difficult. It's like oil and water. But I think you're doing pretty good if you get a woman that says something along the lines of, Ryan, you're right. I was being a brat. I apologize. That makes total sense, right? Like if you can get a woman to get to that point, you're doing really well. Even like half of that point, you're doing really well.
Do you feel like when you say things like this, that people equate it with any sort of nefariousness or manipulation?
Yeah, well, that's what they'll try to do. They'll say, "Oh, well, you're gaslighting me, or you're manipulating me." It's like, no, this is who I am. This is my boundary. If you have a problem with that, then I'm sure there's a guy out there that might be a better fit for you.
And you mean that?
Yeah, 100%. You can go. The door's open. You can leave, but it'll be locked if you try to come back through it.
Okay, so then how do you create? So let's look at it from two different scenarios. Because, when guys listen, we've got two different camps from the context we're talking about, right? We've got guys who maybe are single, they're young, they're dating, they're looking for their wife. And then we've got a whole other cadre of men who are married and they've already committed to somebody. And so we have to look at it from both lenses. How how do you create that abundance where it's like, hey, if she walks, I'm going to be fine in each of those categories?
Did you ever see the stand-up comic bit with Patrice O'Neill on the fishing boat?
Maybe one. I don't think so. Maybe once you say it, I'll know it, but I don't know it right offhand.
Yeah, look it up. I mean, I'm going to butcher it here, but basically, what he says is like, women want a guy that can fish and knows how to catch fish. And the bit is something along the lines of, you have a fishing boat, you go out, you catch fish, you take a picture of the fish so you can show it to people and let them know that you can catch fish. And then you kind of like let the fish go. At some point, though, a fish will hop back on the boat and want you to take it home because it prefers, your boat and your lifestyle to the cold, dark ocean. But the problem with that is that they usually at some point sort of turn around and they'll go, well, we've been together for a while. Why do you still have a boat? And the answer to that is, so I can catch fish. So I don't think that men should relinquish their, their skills when it comes to things like game. There's three idiots that I talk about in the Top Shelf Men. There's proximity, there's familiarity, and there's exclusivity. The one that most guys have the most difficulty with is the exclusivity part, and it boils down to sexual exclusivity. And you can give a woman commitment and exclusivity on separate basis, if you know what I'm saying. I think that you can give a woman 100% of your commitment, but 99% of your sexual exclusivity. I think they have to know that you can catch fish. Whether you choose to catch fish or not is entirely up to you. But I think that if you give them full assurance and exclusivity, you're doing yourself a disservice. It's a fact that it's a hill that I'll die on. Whether you choose to indulge or not, it might involve you being a little bit flirtatious, with the waitress when she comes and takes your order in front of your girlfriend or your wife. You don't necessarily, have to act on it to prove a point. But indulging in some of the banter or some of the game lets her know that you have the capacity to catch fish, if you know what I'm saying here. Yeah.
That's interesting. So, okay. So I would think, just from my position, that once you start, look, flirting, it's inevitable, right? If I was in an exclusive relationship and I saw a woman and she was cute, I'd probably, if she was my waitress, I would probably engage in some harmless flirting. I don't think you can really escape that. But I think once you start deliberately doing it, you are crossing the line. That's how I feel. But that being said, there's nothing to say that I can't continue to dress. I mean, you've got great style. There's nothing to say that I couldn't continue to dress in a way that makes me attractive, or I can't drive the nicest car that I can or have a desire to, and I keep it clean, and that I smell good, and that I've got my things on lock, and that I walk with the energy of confidence because I'm confident in what I do. That's just making yourself the best man possible, whether you want to be in that single committed relationship or not. Like, why wouldn't you do that?
It's manhood 101. Like, why wouldn't you want to maintain the best version of yourself? A lot of guys get lazy, fat, and sloppy because they're sitting around watching sports all the time, doing nothing, eating crappy food. And, women do it too, but you're not going to control anybody else. The only part of the universe that that you can control is yourself. So I think that if you maintain a level of masculine excellence so that you're at or in as close proximity to the top shelf as possible, you will be recognized. Like, your reputation will lead before you enter a room. People will acknowledge you. They'll be interested in you because of who you are, what you look like. There's these 7 spokes that I talk about in my book as well, the 7 spokes of a high value man, and I create this assessment test and everything with it. But leveling up on those 7 spokes is generally what keeps women attracted to you and keeps them around you. And when you start getting lazy in those areas, or you don't really care about doing the work in those areas, you just don't look as good to her, the one that you're with, and anybody else. Like, the surest way to keep a woman around, as silly as this sounds, like, women want what other women want, right?
Yes.
Like the fastest, easiest way for a woman to assess a man's value is if there's other beautiful women around that man. They don't have to do the work. They don't have to sniff him out. They don't have to think about it because they already see beautiful women that have already pre-selected him. So that element of attraction and that glue that keeps women to you, I think it's important to maintain. It's easier for guys like us to do stuff like that because, I mean, you know, you just do a couple of posts on social media, you drop a few pictures, people see who you are, you dress well. There's maybe a couple of gals that come along and they like your stuff, or they'll throw a comment on it. Hey, you look good in that photograph, or something like that. That's plenty to remind your gal that you're a man that other men want to be and other women want to be with.
I think the danger in that, though, is where you start doing that for other women, because they will sniff that out immediately. And then that's no longer powerful. You just gave away, you were doing it so well, and then you did it for a woman, and it just lost all of its potency.
No, all of it is done for yourself. You know, you do it explicitly for yourself. That's where people get confused. Like, oh, well, you're, what have I heard? Sound bites or lines or something like that's what pussy beggars do, or you're some kind of a pickup artist or something like that. And it's like, no, you're not very smart if you don't see the code here, because I'm literally pointing to the facts here, right? You're doing this for yourself. You're not doing this to like chase women, right? The opposite is true. Like when you, again, have ascended to the top shelf or in as close proximity to that as possible, women notice you because other women notice you and other men want to be you. So it's this like self-fulfilling sort of prophecy. It sort of feeds itself, if you know what I mean.
I had this really interesting experience a year or so ago, and I was in a restaurant with a couple of friends. We were hanging out, and I saw this woman, and she was attractive. And I'm like, man, I got to figure out how to a way. She was with her mom, who I assumed was her mom. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, man, I got to figure out a way to like approach this woman. And I noticed her like getting up, gathering her check, going to the front. I'm like, oh man, we were getting up at about the same time. And I just grabbed a napkin and I just wrote on it like, hey, you caught my eye earlier. You're really beautiful. I just wanted to tell you that. My name's Ryan. And I just wrote my number down. Mm-hmm. And I kind of like jogged out to the parking lot. I'm like, excuse me. I said, you dropped this, and I gave it to her. And then I walked away. Mm-hmm. And the guys I were with are like, what's that all about? I'm like, don't worry about it. And we get in the car, and I see her car pull out, and her mom waves at me. And then I get a text later that evening from her, and she's like, yeah, you caught my eye too. And it's like, man, like it's so, and we had a good text conversation. She was visiting, I was visiting. It didn't work out. Nothing worked out. We never met up or anything like that. Yeah. But it's so easy if you can just have a little bit of game, a little bit of play, a little bit of fun. I have a really close friend. His name's Keith Yackey. He was on the podcast last week, and he talks about it. Exactly what you're saying. It's this, what he calls is the player dial, where it's like, hey, can you have fun? Can you flirt? Can you be him? Can you be that guy? And whether you're married or not, like even your wife wants you to be the player that she married, that you hadn't been for 15 years.
There's I mean, that's the bit on the fishing boat that Patrice O'Neill talks about, right? Like that's the capability to catch fish, right? Yeah,
I just, are you familiar with Orion Terabin and his work?
Yeah, he's a good friend of mine, man. He spoke at my conference the last 2 years in a row.
That guy, I love his analogy of saying, hey, you're the captain of the boat, and the captain of the boat's responsibility is to figure out where the boat's going, and then all the passengers, which are the women, then go to the shore, and they're like, well, that captain's going here, and that captain's going there, and that captain's going here. Which one is going where I want to go, and which one, if there's multiple, can actually get me there? Competency. And then she just chooses based on partly what you said is, are there a bunch of other passengers clamoring to get on that boat?
Yeah, it's Terabin's great, man. Like his book, The Value of Others, especially the second.
So good. Like, I've got it right here.
Yeah, we have very similar opinions on dealing with the sexual marketplace for sure.
Do you feel like with Orion and others, there's a line between doing this in a healthy way, but I also sometimes feel like I catch some tones of bitterness or contention with him and other people as well. Towards me.
I mean, I get that a lot. I'm sure he hears it from time to time too, but the truth will sound like hate to those that hate the truth at the end of the day, right? And it's like I really don't care about the opinions of others. I'm not going to change my views and my values just because something I say or do isn't in full alignment with somebody else's value system. I'm not here to mirror back your exact values. Like I just tell you the truth. I know what works and what doesn't work, and that's what I've been about. And if you don't like it, that's cool. We can part as friends.
Yeah. But that's not really what I'm asking. So let me clarify just a little bit more. I'm
Sure.
wondering if there's a point at which we take what we're talking about today, and let's just use the analogy of the fish, where it's no longer about catching the fish. It's no longer about that. It's like I have this disdain for fish, and I'm going to make it miserable for the fish I'm trying to catch. Like, do you feel like it's at some point crosses that line? Because I see that in
some people
the quote-unquote manosphere, where people are like, women are bitches and all women are this and that. I'm like, hold up, chill for a second. Like, I think that says more about you than it does about them.
Yeah, I think a good portion of guys actually get there, where it's like blackpilling for them, where they get to this point of nihilism, where how are you ever going to compete with a woman? I mean, if Tom Brady couldn't do it, what do you think your chances are? If Brad Pitt can't do it, then how the hell are you going to do it, sort of thing? Like, hypergamy is undefeated, or, whatever line or narrative that they use, like all women are the same now, sort of thing. And it's like the vast majority of women are probably not a good fit for the vast majority of guys up there. And that's fine. And that's why I advocate, for the abundance. And, like most of your problems as a guy when it comes to dealing with women can be resolved in a selection phase when you're dating, when you've got a lot of abundance and optionality and you reject the wrong kind of women. That's why I often talk about the 21 red flags and seeking the 16 green flags that, surround the bright triad traits. You want to look for women that are a good fit, that are aligned with your purpose and your goals, and people as well, friends, colleagues, people that you're going to collaborate with, that are open to the ideas. And we don't necessarily have to agree. I'm sure there's lots of things that you and I won't agree on, Ryan, if we were to sit down and, have a beer and a dinner sort of thing, but we can have an open conversation about it, hear each other out, and, sort of leave that evening in some areas to disagree and have some agreements. And that's fine. And that's how men should operate. That's how good calibrated people should operate, I think, anyway. But that's just not how the world goes. Everybody wants to be offended today. They want, like I said earlier, I don't think people want to hear new opinions. They want to hear their opinions come out of your mouth, sort of thing. So you will get painted that way from time to time, but never go black pill. Like, never get to the point where it's like, oh, women are bitches, sort of thing. It's like, I get it. There's a lot of pretty crappy women out there. It's just reject them. You don't invite them into your life. You don't participate in you don't get into the mud and roll around with the pigs, right? Like you spend time with the better ones, and it's going to be tough. I mean, you're going to have to dig through a lot of dirt to find gold. That's just the way that it is.
Yeah, and I actually don't. I understand the sentiment of what you're saying. I don't even consider that. I just consider it like, hey, is this a compatible person with me? And it's as objective as I possibly can make it. The hard part is when she's beautiful. Like, you are so beautiful, and yet I don't like you. And
that's why you got to look past their beauty, man. You know what? That's why you got to look past their beauty. Like, if you actually boil it down, beauty is very common. I mean, you can go to Instagram right now and search #fitnessgirl, and you'll get page after page, like hundreds of thousands of pages of some exceptionally beautiful women. A lot of them are going to be absolute train wrecks, holding out, the best version of themselves on social media. It's like a highlight reel of the perfect life. And, you get to know them and they're a total train wreck. And, I think beauty is common, but I think that men that are at or near the top shelf is more rare. So, when they say that men are the prize, I don't think all men are the prize, but I think that there are a contingent of men out there that have done a considerable amount of work, taken ownership, they've leveled themselves up, that should be very discerning in their taste. Like I said earlier, I think a lot of men's problems with relationships and women can be resolved in the selection phase. Yeah.
Agreed. Okay, so you talked a little bit about the 21 red flags, and I think you said 16 green flags. As far as the red flags go, are there a couple that come to mind that are very difficult? Like, if she has an attitude, I mean, that's a red flag, and everybody can see it. Like, I don't need to really read too much into that. But are there some red flags that are really challenging or difficult to observe and to internalize?
I think most guys inherently know them. I mean, I can, read a few off. There's women with daddy
give me a
issues.
couple.
There's feminists. There's women that are always unhappy and unlucky in areas of life. Women that compete with you. We talked about that earlier before we went live. Violent women that have extreme jealousy issues, party girls. I think women covered in tattoos, women with giant notch counts should be avoided. Women that seek validation online on social media by posting salacious photographs. Women that
What's
throw
the tattoo thing? Tell me about that, because that's increasingly common. What's the tattoo thing?
Yeah, 38% of women have tattoos now. There was a podcast that I did about a year ago. I can't remember all the details, but there was 7 studies that were done on women and tattoos, and they all say the exact same thing. They're extremely undesirable traits that come with women that are heavily tattooed. I'll use a very clear example. A buddy of mine is a ER doctor, and one of the things that he would have a lot of women walking in to get tests for was STDs. And he was telling me one time, your take on tattoos is absolutely right. He goes, the vast majority of women that come in for STD tests, they're covered in tattoos. Right? They're more promiscuous, they're more difficult to deal with. And I think, at the end of the day, tattooing is a very masculine pursuit. And, it's kind of funny. I was talking to Elliot Hulse about this at one time. We did a collab on his channel. He was telling me about his theory on tattoos. And he was like, it kind of disgusts him because, when you sit there and think about it, it requires a man usually sitting in a chair to penetrate her body over and over again with a pen and ink, to mark it up with this tattoo. It's just not a desirable trait. And from the optics of beauty, I think it's classless. It's like putting bumper stickers all over a Lamborghini. A Lamborghini is a beautiful car, and just randomly dropping, stickers all over it, in my opinion, is the same thing as a woman tattooing her body. I think a woman's body is a beautiful thing, and tattooing it just makes it ugly.
I mean, it's hard for me to argue with that. I don't know if I would go so far as to say it's a masculine thing. I get the penetration concept. I think that's a bit of a stretch, to be honest. But but both men and women decorate themselves to make themselves more attractive or to make statements. So I don't know if it's masculine or feminine, but yeah, I would agree. It's like, you're a beautiful woman. Like be beautiful by yourself. I don't have any tattoos personally.
Me neither.
Because
Zero.
I have skin and my skin's awesome. and I can't think of anything that I want to put on my skin that I think that'll look really cool when I'm 80 years old. I don't think it will.
Yeah. A lot of it doesn't make a lot of sense. There's so much randomness to it. It's I was at this restaurant the other day, and my server comes up and she's got, a tank top because it's outside in the summertime. And it's like the sun over here, the moon over here, a Lamborghini Countach over here, a flower pot over here, some other random shit over here. And it's like, it's like your 4-year-old when they get their hands on a sticker book and they just put stickers all over their body sort of thing. That's what it looks like to me now.
Yeah. Well, that, and again, I agree on that. And the other side of it too is tattoos used to be rebellious. Like when you saw a guy or a woman, even more so for a woman with a tattoo, you're like, oh, she's a rebel or he's a rebel. And now the guy without a tattoo or the woman without a tattoo is culturally a rebel.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. So green flags. Give me 2 or 3 green flags a guy ought to look for or cultivate.
I think a really obvious one would be, what does she do when you get sick? Does she want to care for you? Does she want to nurse you back to health?
That's
do you
good.
matter to
I never
her?
thought about that.
Another really good one is I think that a bright green flag would be a woman that genuinely wants to form a connection with your family, your children, whatever that happens to be, right? They'll go out of their way to form a connection and be useful and develop a relationship that is just easy and it sort of flows, right? Versus oh, your mom's such a bitch and why is she so controlling? We've all been with a chick like that at some point, and there's also women out that would be like, your mom's kind of old and she's tired, so let me cook dinner for the family on Sunday when they all come over, sort of thing. I think that's definitely one of the green flags that are on my list.
I went out with a woman a couple of times, and there was this green flag I'd never considered before. Tell me what you think about this, but I think we had went on a date, maybe a dinner date, and she was going to come over to my place for the afternoon. And when she came over, she brought these cupcakes with these candles, and it was number 11 because she knew that I was that week celebrating 11 years of doing this podcast.
Nice. Yeah, that's exactly what you want.
That's
right?
oh my gosh, like that was such a turn on. That alone, I was like, okay, there's something about her. She's coming over with a gift. She knows what I'm doing. It's important. She's being nurturing. Man, that was a huge, huge green flag for me.
Yeah, you want to look for women that find a way to infuse themselves into your life and be useful. It's like, I don't know why this is so contentious for so many women today. Like, God forbid they do anything for the express pleasure of a man. I mean, feminism tells women never to do any of that stuff.
Like make a sandwich. I'm like, damn, if you made a sandwich for me, I'd really appreciate it.
And ask me what I want on the sandwich.
Totally. Why is that you made me a sandwich? Why is that a bad thing? Like, I took you to dinner. Why is that a bad thing? It's not. So
yeah, I
never understood.
Like, I want a chick that's like, hey, have you eaten yet? Hey, Rich, I bought you these boxers the other day when I was at the store. Hey, Rich, 700 horsepower is totally reasonable for a family car.
I do. Okay, so I take a little bit of issue with you saying chick.
Yeah.
Like I don't like that term. I don't even like calling women girls. So is it just semantics or like?
It's just semantics. We always called them chicks growing up, so it's just a word that's in my lingo.
Fair enough. Yeah, and that might be a sticking point for me. You guys would be like, oh yeah, this girl I like. I'm like, you're 50 years old, dude. She's not a girl. She's a woman. Mm-hmm. Fair enough. Tell me about the book, man, and then we'll wrap things up today.
Yeah. So I got 2 books. The Unplugged Alpha was published in 2019. That's kind of a easy path into, the concept of unplugging. The title's The Unplugged Alpha. The second one that I recently put out last October is called Top Shelf Man, and that's kind of a deeper dive down the rabbit hole. It's a little more advanced. It sort of deals more with the maintenance phase of relationships and getting more out of what you want from relationships as men. At the same time, get it, like when you get more of what you want as a guy, believe it or not, you actually give her more of what she wants. You give her the attraction that she wants with the guy. She gets more of the things that make her happy in the relationship. So I talk about a lot of that. I talk about wealth creation methods. There's a chapter in there that describes the Becky avatar, which is like the modern woman, kind of the gal that you talked about earlier, who's got tattoos, wants to roll in jiu-jitsu and shoot guns. Like that's your typical Becky, the boss girl. So there's a lot of good stuff in that book that I think men, once they sort of open up their mind to the idea and the concepts that I talk about, will help them get more out of what they want over the long term with gals.
I'm going to sync it all up. Where do the guys connect with you, man?
It's all centralized on my website, just richcooper.ca.
Cool. We'll sync it all up. I'll make the book available. We'll get guys the social media handles. Rich, I appreciate you, man. I think sometimes from the perspective, when I first found you, I was actually like, who's this guy?
Oh, I know. Yeah.
you know what you're doing. But then I start digging in. I'm like, yeah, that's right. Yeah. That's accurate. Yep, he's right about that one. And so I'm glad that we're connected. I'm glad that we're friends, and I'm glad you joined me today, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. It's been a good chat. I mean, you ever need anything again in the future, you know where to find me, brother.
Absolutely. Thanks, brother.
Thanks, man.